This conference will now be recorded.
That is the importance of insurance and insurtech. 2020 has arguably been the most interesting 12 months of insurtech and related activity ever since the term itself has been coined. A year of testing digital hypotheses and jumping into the digital unknown for many. Also been a very difficult year for many firms and individuals who are looking to get to the next step. What's the next step? Insurtech news is awash with billion-dollar initial public offerings and monumental raises. At the same time, there are also insurtechs that have seen surviving 2020 as a mark of success. COVID-19 has created a situation a few of us could have probably imagined 12 months ago. The industry has shown that it can function digitally and has responded well to the significant challenges. But dramatic operational changes are underway, and industry is facing unique, set of challenges. As far as paid losses go, COVID-19 is the second largest loss event for our industry has ever experienced, second only to Hurricane Katrina. The expected paid loss in about January 2021 from COVID-19 is approximately US $55 billion. In addition to this monumental payout, reinsurers and investment returns have taken a significant hit as global markets have suffered from the global pandemic. It is estimated that global loss investment revenue to our industry is in excess of US $150 billion, and bringing the combined net losses through things like business interruptions and poor performing investment returns to over US $200 billion. In this light, I would like to welcome you all and introduce Surya Saha, who would be the host for the virtual summit. A couple of points here before I introduce Surya Saha, that this will be an interactive session, but please keep your questions ready. You can post them in the chat box and wait for the moderators to open up for questions after each of the speaker or each of the panel discussion. Now, coming to Surya. Surya Saha is an insurance professional with deep expertise in blockchain and fintech. He is the author of The Digital Choices, a book focused on digital transformation and organization's journey through a digitally driven strategy. I have had a privilege of working with Surya for the past couple of years on multiple interventions. In addition to the book, Surya is the steering committee member of European Chamber for Business and Industry. Surya is also a member of the board of the Hope Foundation, Ireland, where he is working towards blockchain implementation for social transformation in Kolkata. Lastly, he is also an ex-fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, London. Academically, Surya is pursuing his PhD currently in enterprise blockchain and how blockchain business models can revamp the insurance claims process in order to improve return on investment and process efficiency. Prior to this, he has completed his MSc in Business Excellence from the University of Warwick, United Kingdom, specializing in process improvements and Six Sigma. Once more, I humbly request each one of you to be ready with your questions, post them in the chat box, and wait for the moderator to open up for the discussions. Over to you, Surya Saha. You're on mute, Surya.
Thank you, Arun, for the kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you're joining today. A very warm welcome to you all joining us from across the globe. This is perhaps the true potential of going digital that we will be witnessing today. This is my pleasure and also delight to see you all here under one platform, getting ready to exchange some of the pressing points in insurance technology. I'll just take you all just a through a quick brief that insurance technology or Insurtech is transforming the insurance industry and the ecosystem in a way that we have never witnessed before. There is unprecedented movement in the field. Insurers are looking to offer products that can be consumed on the go just through your portable devices. So the sharp growth in connectivity is allowing such developments at a great heights, making interactions in real time without any boundaries. And we can imagine how it will be after we have more and more internet connectivity in the space. The power of innovation, technical know-how, and varied technologies, disruptions like blockchain in insurance claims, AI in underwriting, smart devices, predictive analytics, so on and so forth, are giving birth to avenues such as on-demand insurance, smart home insurance, AI in healthcare, cognitive computing and big data involvement, cybersecurity development, and whatnot. But what is most important for us to understand is the risk and the market simultaneously that will help bring the best breakthroughs in insurance technologies, which although have spurred, but it's yet to take the industry at a stop. I believe this is not too far. With this, I would welcome all our distinguished speakers. Some of them are yet to join us, will be joining us in a couple of minutes, and all the guests who are joining us at the Global Insurtech Connect 2021, a virtual conference. We are going to witness some of the most interesting thought leaderships in some minutes from now, and I look forward to interacting with you all soon. I would also like to pass it on to Mr. Ganguly, who is our co-host and the founder of KPI Consulting at the Global Insurtech Connect 2021. To provide a short brief, KPI Consulting is one of the fastest boutique e-learning and consulting firm which provides objective-based, innovative, and effective solutions for the entire spectrum of competence development and niche skills hiring. At present, the firm offers its services across the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East. Over to you, Mr. Ganguly.
Thank you, Surya, for wonderful introduction. Thank you to all our lovely guests who have joined from all across the globe. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for making today joining Global Insurtech Connect 2021. So, let's make our sessions more fun-filled, interactive, and insightful. So, we all agree that the organizations of today are changing and thinking of new model discoveries. They're innovating their business operations, processes, new business strategy. They're innovating customer experiences in terms of becoming more sustainable, profitable, productive, and innovative. In the words of Mark Benioff, who is the CEO of Salesforce, have mentioned that the ability we innovate and at what speed we innovate will determine the winners of today. With the advent of AI, recommendation systems, chatbot, robo-advisors, IoT, blockchain, smart contracts, cloud computing, quantum computing, all digital transformation skills and digital transformations technologies put together, insurtechs are becoming more innovative and game changer. And we all have seen the examples like Tapoli, Hero, Sure, Acco, Digit, Lemonade, Policy Bazaar, and the list is on and on and on. So in this context, I'd like to tell that skill building is one of the key parameters in terms of innovate and stay ahead through your digital transformation journey. At KPI Consulting, we work with those champion leaders, champion organizations who understand the need to change and stay and create value for their customers. So today, I would like to ask our InsurTech lovers, InsurTech leaders, all esteemed panelists, speakers, is that how do you design your future workforce? How do you integrate your DX technologies with your workforce? How do you integrate with AI systems? How your InsurTechs are becoming more agile, more risk-taking, and more customer-centric. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear some of the fascinating InsurTech stories from our leaders and learn from them. So I would like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Saurav Chatterjee, who is not only the eminent Insurtech speaker, but also Insurtech leader with 20 plus years of experience in leading technology delivery, consulting, digital sales, support with Fortune 500 life and general insurance companies in US and India. Currently, he is leading as President Head Technology and Digital Sales and Travel from last 5 years with Bajaj Allianz Group. Let's welcome our first speaker, Mr. Saurav, and understand the upcoming technological landscapes of blockchain and smart contracts for insurance. Mr. Saurav, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganguly. Thank you, Surya, for inviting me. And again, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all of you. I hope you can hear me clearly. You can hear me clearly, all of you?
Yes, yes,
All
Mr.
right,
Saurav.
great.
We can
So,
hear you.
great. So I can see some of the faces and I see a lot of boxes on the screen. So I don't, I'm not a believer in presentations. I'm not a believer in buzzwords. I know there's so much happening these days, right? And the words of digital and transformation are, and insurtechs and fintechs. It's usually overused, abused. So let me speak from my experience and some of the things that I have learned. Not that I have answers to everything, but idea is around sharing my thoughts, my experiences, and then obviously learn from all of you. So the session is titled Blockchain and Smart Contracts for Insurance. My name is Saurabh Chatterjee. As I said, I play the role of CIO CTO for Bajaj Allianz General Insurance Company. It's the largest PNC and health insurance company in India. Just to give you a size of it, we have around 72 million retail customers, 200 plus banks, 250,000 plus intermediaries, e-com companies, all the names that Mr. Kambuli just talked about, right? The e-com companies and then we work with some of these insurtechs as well. Now, my role is that of a practitioner. Even though I lead technology as the CIO CTO and as the PNL owner for digital, my role is one of practitioner. I am a sort of both an enthusiast and a challenger, within a large enterprise. And so I'll talk about some of the use cases that we have ourselves done, or we are in the process of doing. There's a large lag between what we call a POC and what we say large-scale implementation. And typically in a large enterprise, there is a big lag, because of whatever reasons, with all the right intent. Right? And this has been a COVID year. So a significant impact in terms of learnings, in terms of both from a product innovation standpoint, from a process and customer service standpoint, and that's still going through. A lot of countries are facing a second wave, and therefore, the learnings, the claims experience, all the data and analytics is still big. Now let's come to the topic. Blockchain has got the attention of a lot of people. And while we all debate about the Bitcoin cryptocurrency part of it, I think we are going to talk about the smart contract or the DLT, the distributed ledger technology on this, which resonates loudly, I'm sure, with all of you. After all, insurance is a contract between the policyholder and the insurer, and I believe it could play a huge role in delivery of insurance services in both whichever country we are from. Now, just to give you an impact of this, now there are some metrics. See, typically in a large enterprise, we talk about two things: scope, scale, as well as the impact. And if I just look at some of the industry numbers and predictions which are there by the likes of Gartner and IDC, it said that by 2022, many new companies will start using blockchain at scale. And at least there will be one business created using blockchain, which will be worth at least 10 billion. And the overall market is supposed to be, and these are all Gartner numbers, so you can ask the analysts in terms of how they have calculated this. But the idea is it will go big. We are talking about blockchain would add a business value of over around 176 billion, and it could be in even more. So let's define what's blockchain for us in our context of insurance. See, from our standpoint, the distributed ledger technology, while it has been around, and we started a few years early on, this entire journey. I'll talk about 6 or 7 use cases, 2 around real life examples, which we have done. So as I speak, we have actually implemented, rolled it out, and seen the impact of it. right? As an insurer, we have tried it out in India last couple of years, and we have tried to scale it. And then obviously two promising use cases which I see coming up in the future, which we are also working on. The first is the claim settlement for PNC. So if you look at the entire PNC, whether it is travel, whether it is marine, whether it's on parametric or weather insurance or health insurance, I think the claims process today has there are multiple partial payments, disputed coverages, errors in billing, delinquent bills through the collection entire process. Now by capturing and tracking changes to claims file on a shared ledger and using smart contracts to confirm the applicable terms and conditions, I think the errors can be reduced and the accuracy of the claims can be improved. Now, this has a direct impact on both the consumer experience as well as internally, shortening the entire processes. And I believe this is one of the largest use cases that are getting tried out today. And I'll tell you the example of this. What have we done about it? So we introduced something 3 years back called Travel Easy, and now this has been done by Bajaj Allianz. It has been done by Allianz globally, as well as some of the other use cases. Something called Travel Easy, where we just looked at the entire travel experience for flight delay, specifically for flight delay. Now, travel insurance policies that you look at, and these are pretty much common. I looked at travel insurance policies, and as insurers, we know this, and all of you, there are probably so many inclusions, so many exclusions, and I don't know whether you claim it or not, unless there is a real health scare, right? When you're on the health part of it, the hospitalization part. Without it, I don't think anyone claims, right? Now, the whole idea about creating something like this was A, to improve the consumer experience, and second, hear this, we wanted the customers to actually claim. Now, imagine an insurance company saying we want the customers to actually claim. See, the reason for this is, even though insurance companies have high combined ratio, and all of you probably know in terms of the profitability where the industry is. In India, out of 31 PNC and health insurance companies, I believe the only one who has been making any underwriting profit for last 20 years is a company called Bajaj Allianz, where I belong to. And it's not by any magic, right? It is because we select our risk properly, we underwrite them properly, and then during the claims, we actually service the claims beautifully with the lowest grievances as per the regulator, and there's a publicly available data on it. So that all that comes back to us in terms of the renewals, in terms of second product, in terms of household product, and that's why 72 million customers are there. So what did we do? On the health insurance, on the travel insurance, we looked at the flight delay, and we put in used the Hyperledger fabric, Hyperledger contract, which is available, worked with an Insurtech company, and put it out there on a third-party cloud. And we said that anyone having a flight delay will directly have the claim payout deposited directly into their bank account, provided we have the payment instrument at the time of buying the policy. So essentially, see what we have done. One, we wanted the customers to claim. Second, we took out that entire process of having to file a claim. Because on the third-party ledger, we already have a flight aggregator, we have an insurance company, we have the payment piece, the payment instrument and the payment entire process, the back-end process already out there with APIs, with in a microservices architecture, so that the moment this trigger happens, the entire amount gets directly deposited onto the bank account or whichever payment option that the customer has chosen. This is an example that we did try out, and it worked wonderfully. Not in terms of giving me a huge amount of not just claims or but a huge customer experience improvement. We saw a lot of repeat customers, a lot of word of mouth without using both digital marketing, but we didn't use traditional forms of marketing. But a lot of consumers came back and bought their health or an auto policy, which are large ticket items for us to gain that that mind share. And that in a traditional sense, look at the number of policies per customer or policies per household, which is where the level of profitability from an insurance company comes in. So that's one use case. From a health insurance standpoint, I think in the entire health ecosystem, we believe that the usage of blockchain the specifically medical records can be encrypted and shared between the different hospitals and insurers, thus cutting duplicate and erroneous records. Now, this is easier said than done. There are so many participants in the entire healthcare or the health ecosystem. So not that we have, it is still a work in progress. There is still a lot of work to do. It may be established between us and a few hospitals. It may be established between us and a few service providers, but to do it at a mass scale, at a large scale, by giving a real experience, real wonderful experience to the end consumers, that's something it is still work in progress, but we are moving the needle towards that. Of course, the most important thing from an insurance company, the third use case is around fraud prevention. Whether it is the verification of claims like a no claims bonus, auto and health policies, background of the insured, the KYC and AML procedures, the know your customer kind of a process. And I think this has taken a lot of, I would say, a lot of not just attention, but also a lot of speed now. And it is going, coming forward. I'll talk about the challenges though in that. And of course, the fourth one is the reinsurance. Now this is where I think a lot of real use cases are, I would say, scaling up, where blockchain could be used to record the details of the claims between the insurers and the reinsurers and can accurately divide the cost between them. Because obviously it's an immutable record of claims, including the timestamp and therefore the trust between various partners. Now, as I mentioned, two live use cases. This was one. I think globally also there have been cases, and I see some of the participants joining from the African subcontinent, the Kenyan livestock insurance program, which we have studied very closely. I think that is another wonderful example of an index-based livestock insurance scheme. The reason I mention that is because from an Indian context, the crop insurance is one of the very big aspects that we are looking at from a government standpoint, and we believe blockchain could play a very important role. In fact, I personally believe that there are triggers for every tech or every technology to become more mainstream. And those triggers are very important because without it, we will keep on operating in a POC or sort of experiments, and not scale. Service delivery, large scale service delivery to a larger audience in India or a larger, for the public good. The use of blockchain in that would be that trigger, is my firm belief as a practitioner. Because everything needs one big, trigger, one big push, and I believe this is one of those. Now let me talk about two use cases for the future, where again we are partly working on, and obviously still ways to go. But the entire IoT ecosystem. There's a lot to do in the home insurance. Everything is connected now, getting connected now. The cars, devices, home appliances, and these are having their own insurance policies registered or administered by contracts. Why can't these be registered or administered by smart contracts in a blockchain network? Automatically detecting the damage and then triggering that repair process as well as the claims and payments. And this is an area where we are actively working on. Given that now, say for some of you have joined from Bangalore, with the Bangalore-based e-com companies, we have worked on mobile insurance. We are now working on large extended warranty products like, you can insure the refrigerator in your home. You can insure the air conditioning in your home. Imagine all these getting connected through a home, smart home automation kind of a tool, which is already out there. The scale is still coming. It is still building up. But all that, the moment it gets into any kind of a fault, the repair can be automatically triggered through a service provider. And then, of course, the insurance claims can be done, and this is the entirely seamless process from an end consumer standpoint. This is getting built. Of course, the second one is around the parametric insurance. I think this is another big area, especially in a country like India as well. And parametric could mean crop, parametric could mean a bunch of other things. But the idea is blockchain plays a very big role. Now, this brings me to the challenges. So enough about the use cases, enough about what we really want to do. What are the challenges in this whole thing? Right? And I was speaking to some of the experts in another panel a few days back in the IMI conference, where we talked about two basic challenges. Number one, the biggest challenge is trust and transparency. See, trust and transparency are the basic, building blocks of blockchain technology, right? But I'm not talking about trust and transparency related to technology aspect. The entire process, the entire this thing, the ecosystem here needs different participants. And the biggest question that comes in is, what's in it for me? How will I trust the other party? Whether these are other insurers, whether they are the third parties, and therefore I believe some amount of regulatory oversight in sharing and building trust to begin with is important. Not to stifle the innovation aspect, but for more from an aspect of looking at it from an aspect of what's in it for me has to be defined. Let's just try this out. Let's just try this out. Finally, trust. If I were to use a mathematical model for trust, it is inversely proportional to self-focus. Trust is inversely proportional to self-focus. If blockchain has to revolutionize the industry, the insurance industry, for the greater good of all stakeholders, we need early adopters. We need carriers, insurance companies who will see this as mutual benefit for the mutual benefit of the industry and promote its usage. Try out large number of use cases, bring in multiple parties, and think about what's in it for me right at the end. Right? And that's a fundamental challenge. The second is I believe blockchain is a fundamental use case for an ecosystem. And in ecosystem, there is a concept of a shared value model. And the shared value means irrespective of your role, size, importance, influence in the ecosystem, all participants must work together to create a win-win for all parties involved. And I believe this is the second challenge that has to be addressed. So trust and transparency, and second, a shared value kind of a model. And these two things, I would say, are the biggest challenges, which both as an industry and the bigger part of the, the ecosystem, the Insurtech, the third party, all the tech companies have to solve this. So finally, my shout out will be to all of you listening in as part of the insurance ecosystem, whether as carriers, as Insurtechs, as technology companies. I think about the following three takeaways from my perspective. This is my learning. How do we enroll? Number one, how do we enroll more industry participants and stakeholders in scaling the use cases to the next level? What are those 2-3 triggers which will really push the usage of this promising and useful technology to mainstream in insurance? And as I mentioned, my belief is that if you use it for public good, if the use case is for public good and service delivery, insurance service delivery to the remote parts of the country of where the insurance penetration is low, such as India, where it's 3.5%, still, or many other countries, I believe that would be it would be the trigger point for blockchain technology in insurance. Second, is there a use case for building a universal blockchain platform, which can be a plug and play kind of a model for insurance carriers or whoever wants to use it? Now, there are large scale open source platforms which are available, which focus on decentralized insurance applications, but have they really scaled? Have they really earned, sort of the universal adoption that we are talking about? Or again, is it in parts? So this is the second area that I would, like to, not just leave you with as a takeaway, but also for you to give your views and thoughts. And, I would love to hear that feedback, whether here or whether outside, as the third, with specific region-based nuances, regulations, needs, consumer segments, is there a case for a national or a regional blockchain policy, to ensure technology and operational challenges are overcome and the need for standardization or interoperability is addressed? Now, this is very important because again, each market is different. The nuances are very, very different. So these are the three takeaways or three learnings from my side, which I would leave you with. Hope I've been able to add value to the session and and express my views and thoughts. As I said, I don't believe in PPTs and buzzwords, but these were my learnings or my thoughts. Over the period of time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saurav. I mean, this was some really good thoughts coming in there. I really love the fact of the parametric insurance that has been brought in with example of the blockchain and smart contracts. I think that is one of the vital area in the insurance industry that blockchain is going to transfer to a greater extent, and not just in in the Asian subcontinent, but it's taking place majorly in the North American side as well. I mean, how travel insurance it's going to transform the way we actually take policies for the risk coverage that we need. So it's not only would just cover the policies or the amount that we are paying, but also how we are going to track and bring transparency to that aspect. So trust is certainly one of the major aspects to it. I mean, thank you very much for the great insights on that.
Sure.
So, as we promised, this conference will also include a real-time conversation with the experts, speaker, and panelist. So now we are actually going little ahead of time. So usually it is the other way around, but which is a good thing for us that we are moving ahead of time. So we will open the session for a Q&A with Mr. Saurav Chatterjee. So if anyone, any participants would like to ask him a question, interact with him, I would request them to please unmute yourself one by one and then interact, or just park your question in the chat room and we can put that across to Mr. Saurav Chatterjee. Open for a Q&A.
Mr. Chatterjee, this is Arun here. I have a general question.
Sure.
There is also an interest in this discussion about skill building. And as we see, a lot of people, they invest a lot of money in their education and building skills. And sometimes, so do you think if a product or service could come over a longer period of time where a skill building initiative could get insured and they get paid out over a longer period of time, so ensuring what you learn. So what's it's a question both to Mr. Ganguly and Ms. Chatterjee.
Yeah, and as an insurer, if you would ask me, I only insure, risks where, which insurance is a law of numbers, right? So I have to be, they pay real attention to this. But look at it, this way. As I said, I operate in a challenger model. The world going forward is, it's a knowledge economy, right? I mean, it is the knowledge and, the kind of skill sets that we are building. And anything new always will have a shortage, and the shelf life is becoming shorter and shorter. So why not? Why can't we insure the professional, right? There is already insurance which is related to job loss, right? It's already, it's out there, right? So if you, for no fault of yours, and obviously as long as you have not done anything wrong, which I mean by wrong, I mean from a legal compliance standpoint, right? It could be a normal, whatever, downsizing or, a layoff. For no fault of yours, if you have been laid off, there is already a job loss insurance which exists, right? And some of the countries in India, it's not out there at a very large scale yet, but I believe it can come in the future. The idea around skill set is also the same, right? Skill sets become obsolete over a period of time. You could insure, you could technically, insure that, but it has to be properly defined. The nuances, the contours of that has to be done. So that would be my response to it.
Thank you, Ms. Chatterjee.
I think we have a question from John. John, would you like to ask the question to Saurav?
Okay, thank you very much, Surab. And my question is on blockchain. I'm calling in from Uganda, and I'm an insurance practitioner. I'm an insurance and an insurance broker as well, and we're
I'm not able to hear you, John. Is it me or?
to go into the micro insurance.
I cannot hear you clearly, John.
Some internet
And the need for platforms. There's availability of solutions for insurance and appetite from insurers with platforms. Subscription. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm calling in from Uganda, East Africa. It's it's an emerging
okay, I will take
economy
Can you put it in
And
the chat box?
I'm also involved in the insurance business. And
John, we
we
cannot
are
hear you
trying to break
clearly.
into the micro insurance space to make insurance more in the population. The insurance companies.
So he has mentioned in the chat
Do
box.
you have platforms or open source platforms?
So
Can you hear me now?
John, just one second. I'll just summarize that. So what John has asked.
Yeah. Do you have
been used to support micro insurance before, and are there some open source platforms supporting micro insurance for emerging markets?
So there are, if you really ask today, right, from micro insurance standpoint, there are open source platforms available, but not necessarily using a smart contract or a blockchain kind of a technology. So you see, in the end of the it depends on each insurer on what they want to use as a platform for micro insurance. You know what I mean by micro? There are two types of micro insurance, right? One you can call micro insurance as sachet insurance, right? That could be as simple as a very simple cyber policy. It could be things to insure your phone, etc. Or it could be like a personal accident policy. It could be something which is related to a small health policy, like in COVID times. We had a 156 rupee corona insurance, which it's a benefit policy for 50,000 rupees of hospitalization, right, or 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees of hospitalization. Now all these are available on cloud platforms as what do you say, as offering micro insurance to the required consumer segments. But they obviously are contracts, and they use the contract. But the smart contract piece, or the auto settlement of the claims, is still not built in into some of these. I hope I answered your question based on what I heard. So I still didn't hear the entire aspect. I hope I answered your question. If you can type
yes,
it.
I touched upon the points John has put in. John, if you have a question, do drop in the chat box. We have one more question from Ms. Pandey. That is, it's a more of a general. How does blockchain technology benefit the insurance industry?
See, there are three main benefits. As I mentioned, number one, fast settlement of claims. When you have fast settlement of claims, when the internal processes are more automated, the most of the back-end work, once the claim is lodged, is related to verification of the claim, whether the right inclusions, exclusions from a policy are triggered, whether it is a fraudulent case or etc. or not, whether are all the documents provided or not. Now, having a pre-approved contract on a third party side and having auto triggers takes away that entire backend process, simplifies that entire backend process for both the consumer as well as from an insurance company standpoint. And so therefore the operating cost is something that that bothers most of the insurance companies, because they're very thin margins overall, right? After paying the claims and after talking about the expenses, which includes acquisition cost and all, it's a very small margin. And therefore the automation of the entire backend is one. And the second is, of course, the biggest is consumer experience, right, around it. If you have the claims is the moment of truth in any insurance experience, right? And if we are able to make that process seamless, it generates a huge amount of customer satisfaction, and a lot of promoters, or the net promoter score increases, the grievances reduce, and that in turn helps us keep our customers for more for the long term. These are the benefits from an insurance company standpoint. And of course, from a third party, because it's a distributed kind of contract, distributed ledger, you don't have to get into those kind of back and forth with multiple third parties involved in that. So these are the benefits. Thank you.
Thanks, Saurabh. We have one more question from John. That is, what are some of the cloud-based platforms that can be used for simple micro insurance products? Example, personal accident, health, mobile phone insurance, etc.
Yeah. So see, let's define what you mean by cloud-based platform. See, I'm a techie end of the day, right? As the CIO CTO. So let's just understand what we have are are insurance policy admin platforms just deployed. Insurance policy admin platforms deployed on the cloud. Whether these are in both models, these are in as lift and shift also are native cloud deployments as well, which issue micro insurance products. Like for example, let me give you an example that we have. You said mobile insurance, right? So with an e-com company, we issued 2 years back when we had tied up with them, 3 years back now, in fact. We issued around 500,000 policies within 48 hours, mobile insurance policies. Now this was a cloud deployment, and this was our entire policy engine deployed on the cloud in a native cloud environment with a microservices architecture, which helped us through APIs. We obviously were integrated with them through APIs. You say, what are those platforms? These are various platforms. Depends again on the country and the geography they're in. That these platforms are out there. In India, one of the largest platforms is something called TCS Banks. There are other examples like we have one from Allianz. We have things from eBauTech. We have multiple products are out there. So these are policy admin platforms which have got small implementations for catering to microinsurance policies. Now, I think I hear one more. If you're okay, Surya, I'll take that.
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Are there examples from insurance where insurance regulators have embraced blockchain technology? See, the insurance from a regulation standpoint, I believe there is no blockage as such. In fact, I find that we often say that in regulated industries it is it's the blockage is from a regulation standpoint, but I think it's quite the contrary to that. In fact, the industry players have to step up. I will give you an example. In India, from a regulation standpoint, IRDA, which is our regulatory body, has introduced a fantastic model called the entire like the Monetary Authority of Singapore. They have introduced sandbox model. Now, this sandbox has already gone through one round where a lot of interesting proposals were put into it, like things like one of the things that we worked with was a pay-as-you-go insurance, right? Now, this is also an example of of taking a large motor policy as a comprehensive product, breaking it into specific ones, and then saying I can give you a per kilometer or a per trip kind of an insurance rather than an entire product, right? Auto product. Right? So things are there where the regulator is actually encouraging the usage of some of these technologies, and they have openly. However, we have to always remember the regulators' job is to obviously look at it from a policyholder protection, the larger interest. So there is no blockage, and they are very open, and we are very openly talking as an industry, and especially in the entire sandbox as an environment. I can talk about it from an Indian context. Now, if you look outside India, whether it is the MAS or whether it's in UK, I'm sure some of you have joined. There are various examples where the regulators have. My final view on this is, as I said, it's a mindset shift. See, insurance companies have been around for many, many years, hundreds of years. It is very important to take, the carriers have to take a more forward-looking kind of an approach and experiment. Because unless we do that, I think that is probably the biggest block. Is the consumer is ready, the regulator is ready, the environment is good, the tech is there. I think it's a question of just as as insurance companies taking the plunge and then scaling.
Thanks, Saurav. That's probably perhaps the last question, if you don't have any. I have one question for you. That is, blockchain, if I have to relate with the product lifecycle in insurance, particularly if I have to focus on the claims process in the entire value chain. So if I have to categorize it like claims registration to assessment and then payment and closure. So claims part of the life cycle is the most vital one in the insurance industry, as the maximum amount of fraud occurs there. So
Yes.
how, in your view, blockchain and smart contracts with the help of sensors and IoTs can best help this particular claims modeling process?
A very good question, Surya. See, the claims is the moment of truth, as I mentioned, right? And you divided it into three parts, right? The first part, let's just talk about the registration, right? Registration is still easy, right? You can still register. Many of the carriers have moved to, insurance companies have said, okay, you can register the claim and I will receive that registration and maybe give you a unique number, right? So I don't think a very large amount of impact from blockchain or any smart contract comes in there. The next is the most important piece, which is the assessment of the claim, and then the from approving it or denying it or asking for more information. Now this is where something like a blockchain plays a role. Why? A, because your inclusions, exclusions, everything is coded and put into a format where the machine itself is deciding. Now there will maybe scenarios, right? There may be scenarios where for 5-10% cases it will still require that that difference between the art and science, right? The art of the claims adjuster or or certain around that thing. But most of it is can be done data driven, right? And here is where a smart contract helps. The second is the fraud element, as you mentioned, right? When you have a smart contract with third party integration with data which is available and coming in real time, a lot of this is from a trusted source. So you have taken out that complication or complex part from during that claims sort of adjustment or claims approval disapproval upfront and try to solve that problem, for a large extent of the entire. Of course, there will be some percentage which will, which will obviously be determined by the, from a science, from a art standpoint, rather than the science, of the data or insights, right? But then, other than that, the data and insights can tell you everything. And finally, the, this whole process of adjustment and finally payout, right, is again a kind of a sore point, right? Because it takes time, and with already approved and already the smart contract, it can automatically trigger the payment. So you are just taking from this entire process, you're taking the time out as one of the factors. You're using a lot of insights from from data that is previously available. You are looking at the entire process being digitally enabled, and therefore trusting a lot of third party integration and all, which you've already done, trying to take out that fraud element. Now look, end of it, insurance, as I said, is is about risk, right? There will be certain amount of fraud which will be there in the process, right? The question is, for 5% or 2% or whatever, 7% of those fraudulent actors as well as cases, do you want to inconvenience the 95 other percentage, is the question. If you make the process, that's a fundamental belief, it's a mindset shift, right? So if you know your process, if you trust your underwriting, if you trust your claims processes, if you know what your smart contract is, if you have done your integration, data and insights, I believe you can make the process simple for 95%. Now this also will trigger, right? Obviously the machine is learning. This also will trigger, we use something like a red, amber, green, right? Where we are actually talking about identifying that fraud from various kinds of insights that we generate, whether data internally, whether external third party. And we make sure that we don't catch it later in the life cycle, but then put it back upfront so that we don't allow these elements to come into the entire, insurance life cycle. So that's how we are looking at it. Not just, not just do I have all the answers? No, it's still a learning process. Everyone is getting better and better at it. But I believe as a technology and as a as a concept, blockchain has got a huge application in the insurance life cycle, especially claims.
Absolutely, Saurav. I mean, yes. I mean, what I could, if I have to just summarize what you've spoken, based on what I've seen earlier. So that if I have to compare the traditional and the blockchain-based process, ideally the differentiator would stand on the condition-based, processing.
Yes.
That is ideally the smart contracts and the blockchain-based distributed ledger.
Yes. Yes.
So these are the two differentiators, and it will hugely save cost as well as time.
Yeah.
Your different. Thank you very much. I think sort of sorry to be just holding you on. We have
No,
won
no,
the
no,
last.
not a problem. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Uh, that's from Yasmin. That is, what about the fraud analysis accuracy and turnaround time?
So the accurate, okay, now this is a, there is a subjectivity in this question. Let me say turnaround time definitely gets reduced, right? Because obviously everything, as I mentioned, is already codified, is out there, and the triggers are auto and it's machine driven, like the travel example I talked about, right? Now the accuracy is little subjective because it determines, it's determined based on which product are we talking about, right? And which process are we talking about? Let's just take the example of um, maybe motor, right? Auto, or say health, right? In health, the accuracy, the fraud analysis accuracy, let's just take health, right? So the customer getting admitted to a hospital, and that hospital, and obviously undergoing a procedure there, and then finally sending us a bill. Wherever there's a cashless experience and it's part of the network, around it is already a cost that we know, and we know the provider, in this case the hospital. So the chances of having something as a hard fraud is very low, and therefore we trust that process, and the accuracy of is very high, because if anything goes wrong, we know, where the. Now there is a lot of soft fraud in the process, right? What I mean by soft fraud in the health insurance is, do you really know whether this procedure costs you X or not, or is it X plus 10 or 20%? In the entire procedure, do you have things which have been charged at maybe 20% or 25% or 30% more than what they should have been charged, around that or not, right? So the hard fraud around hospital procedure, whether it is actually was conducted or not, what is the fraudulent claim, I think there is a high level of accuracy, into all of this, as long as it is within the closed network. The moment obviously it goes out of the network, that trust element that I talked about comes into picture. But the softer fraud is more, you learn over a period of time, based on the different triggers, the different proxy information, right? A lot of third-party data, and those models get built over a period of time. So that's that. Again, as I said, that's a more learning process. But the turnaround time is a straight advantage, because here sometimes it's actually scary, right? Because the turnaround time, you're already triggering the claim payout, based on what the machine is telling you, right?
Saurabh, hi, Ankit.
Yeah, Ankit. Hi. Please
Uh,
tell me.
so, company in India, basically digital platform used for business enhancement or sales target completion, rather than the customer service. Do you think that digital platform is using for only for sales target or business enhancement rather than the customer service?
No, actually, it's the contrary. If the insurance companies are doing that for sales enhancement, it's actually, will hit them back. I'll give you an example. During the peak of COVID last year, same time, the Indian Prime Minister announced on 23rd March 2020, large-scale lockdown. You know what helped us for the next 3 months? What helped us was the tools or the digital platforms that we had created for assisting customers in terms of renewals, endorsement, claims payout. And the example of that was something called Boeing. This is our version of a Siri, or whatever you call it. This is an AI and NLP enabled bot deployed at scale within the organization with a Bangalore-based startup. And then I can even name the startup, Raghu and Yellow Messenger team, which we created and deployed across the board, right? All our digital customer-facing assets, whether it was the website, whether it was the app, whether it was the IVR, whether it was any other medium, agents, brokers, we used that platform, and 75-80% self-service. The self-service went up from 30-40% to 70-80% during that time. And that is what gives us the advantage of being an insurer the lowest grievances and the highest NPS in the industry. And this is a regulator figure. I'm not making it up. It's something that the regulator reports. Right, the lowest grievance report is out there for everyone to see. So digital platforms, if they are used for only sales enhancement, I think these are small terms, short-term wins, but long-term they will actually be more detrimental to the industry or to the company.
Thanks.
I think due to the interest of time, we would move on to the first panel of today. But before we do that, I would like to sincerely express my gratitude to Saurav Chatterjee for his time and such a wonderful thoughts to everyone's questions and a viewpoint on blockchain, smart contracts, and how the insurance industry as a whole can benefit from these emerging technologies. Thank you very much, Saurav, for being here today.
Thank you, Surya. Thank you. My pleasure.
We will move on to our next panel, that is on on managing insurance models in the age of digital transformation.